Dot Solutions. Add-on desire.
Welcome to Adult Solution. This is Shruti, your English teacher. Today I am going to explain chapter number 1 from your book, Footprints Without Feet. So the title of the story is The Triumph of Surgery, and the writer of the story is James Herriot. So the title of the story is Triumph. Triumph means a victory of surgery. Surgery is the name of a small clinic run by a veterinary doctor. So let me first introduce you to the author. So this you can see over here in the picture, James Alfred Wheat. His name is, actual name is James Alfred Wheat, but his pet name is James Herriot. So better known by his pen name, James Herriot was a British veterinary surgeon and author. So what is a pen name? You must know about a pen name. Pen name is a name used by a pseudonym used by an author or a writer. So his pen name is James Herriot and actual name is James Alfred Wheat. So was a British veterinary surgeon. So he was a doctor by profession. Veterinary doctor means the doctor who treats animals. So an author, and he was an author, a writer also. Born in Sunderland, Wheat graduated from Glasgow Veterinary College, Glasgow. So he graduated from Glasgow Veterinary College in 1939, returning to England to become a veterinary surgeon in Yorkshire, where he practiced for almost 50 years. So he practiced as a doctor for 50 years. He is best known for writing a series of 8 book sets in the 1930s to 1950s Yorkshire Dales about veterinary practice, animals and their owners, which began with If Only They Could Talk, first published in 1970. So he has published a volume of his books, and many of his books were based on animals and their owners, and the first book was If Only They Could Talk. Over the decades, the series of books sold some 60 million copies, and he was a very popular writer. So you can see it that 60 million copies were sold of his books. Here the franchise based on his writings was very successful, and those who were running the franchise based on his writing was very successful. In addition to the books, there have been several television and film adaptation of Wheat's books. So some serials were also produced based on his books. So like including the 1975 film All Creatures Great and Small. So a film was also created based on his book, and the title is All Creatures Great and Small, and the BBC television series of the same name. There was a series, a program on TV program which it was on BBC television. So we know BBC, DD, these televisions were run by the governments of those countries, and they were very popular in 1960s and 70s. So which ran 90 episodes. There were 90 episodes made out of his stories from his books. And in and the 2020 series of the same name, and then in 2020 also a series was made with the same name. So as a television program, like some famous television programs are made based on some famous epics or famous books in each and every country. So in England also they had created some series of television programs. Now I'll give you the summary of the story. So in the story there's a dog, its name is Tricky, and this Tricky is very much loved and pampered, in fact over pampered by his mistress. So then what happens that he gets overindulged, or maybe he gets overindulged with his mistress, and this mistress feeds him a lot because she is a very rich lady. So she has all the she has got everything for her dog. She has purchased everything which is useful for a dog. So like a night bed, a morning bed, and then eating utensils, and then clothes, apron, etc. So like the dog is living in a very luxurious house, luxurious place. So what happens that because of overeating he starts showing indication of lethargy and vomiting, bouts of vomiting, etc. So the mistress gets very worried, and then she contacts a veterinary doctor. So then how this doctor treats the ailing dog. So and how the mistress becomes happy after seeing a transformation in her dog. So the doctor, in fact the veterinary doctor, treats the dog without using any medicine. So how it happens, we'll see it. So this is video number 1, and first I'll give you the summary. In the chapter A Triumph of Surgery is about a small dog and Tricky, who was always indulged by his rich mistress. Indulge means here to allow yourself to have or do something for pleasure, like he was indulged in eating. So by his rich mistress, Mrs. Pumphrey, with tasty and unhealthy treats. So treats means here we can say food. So here what, like a Pumphrey, the name of the mistresses, dog's mistresses, Mrs. Pumphrey. So with tasty she used to feed her dog with cakes, biscuits and lot of other stuff, So it was tasty, but it was unhealthy for the dog. Out of love she would overfeed her pet. So she loved her pet so much that she would overfeed him. Gradually Tricky gained oodles of weight. Oodles means here a very large number or amount of something. So Tricky, the dog, gets a lot of weight. He puts on a lot of weight. Oodles is a large number or large amount of weight, and became lazy. And we know that if you gain a lot of weight, put on a lot of weight, your activities become slow. You cannot be agile, and you cannot walk properly, or you cannot breathe properly. So you start panting, and a lot of calories are stored in your body, and so because of that there comes a lot of health issues. So the dog is also suffering from the first basic, here you can see the basic effect of overeating, and that is lethargy. So what happens that he hardly exercised or went out for a walk due to his bloated structure. Bloated means here swollen from containing too much air, liquid or food, like a balloon. Bloated like a balloon. When something is filled with air or something is filled with water, when you soak something and it gets filled with water, that is also bloated. And bloated here a balloon kind of a structure. In due course of time he became bulky. Bulky means again here fat, heavy. So large and heavy. And lack of movement worried Mrs. Pumphrey. So the dog stops doing any movements. It starts sitting in a place. So then it worries Mrs. Pumphrey, and soon she consulted Mr. James Harriet, a veterinary surgeon. So who's the veterinary surgeon here? The writer himself, the author himself, for treatment of a lethargic dog. So she wanted the veterinary doctor to treat her dog. Mr. Harriet was shocked to see Tricky's condition and took him to the hospital. He knew Mrs. Pumphrey's overindulgence would never let her pet dog lead a healthy lifestyle. And it is very weird that some parents and some owners of their dogs, out of over pampering, out of over love, over indulgence, they feed their kids a lot. Like even you see in rich families, their kids become couch potatoes, and they stop doing activities, and then they start getting diseases, like they get specs. They have to wear specs at an early age, and then some children even suffer from diabetes. So what happens that this is the fault of the parents or the owner. So here, so the doctor says that Mrs. Pumphrey would not allow her dog to lead a healthy life. So he took the dog along with him and put him on a hospital bed. So he carries the dog in his car, and then he puts him in his hospital for a fortnight. Fortnight means a period of 15 days. The dog didn't move for the first 2 days and didn't eat any food either. So for the first 2 days the dog did not eat anything because it was not feeling hungry. He was not feeling hungry, and it did not move also because of overweight. So on the third day, Tricky went outside and played with other bigger dogs in the hospital. So it's a veterinary hospital, so there were some animals in the hospital, especially dogs. So he went and he started playing with bigger dogs. He ate the food that was given to him and also licked the bowls of other dogs for the leftover food. So after 2 days, that is on the third day, he ate some food and he licked the bowls of the other dogs and the leftover food. Mr. Harriet gave a balanced diet to Tricky along with plenty of physical exercise. So Mr. Harriet, he gave him balanced diet, soup maybe kind of things, and physical exercise, and it kept it in open. The dog was kept in open. So what happened that it started moving, playing and walking, catching mice, etc. So it became active because it got a lot of space and a lot of friends. Gradually Tricky's condition started improving and he started fighting with other dogs for the meal. So gradually his condition started improving. He started showing some improvement action. He started doing activities. It became active. And then his mistress, Mrs. Pumphrey, would send eggs so that her pet didn't starve and get enough energy to recover from the treatment. So Mrs. Pumphrey, she used to send eggs for her dog so that it becomes energetic. However, James Harriet and his partner would eat the eggs daily for breakfast. But the doctor, veterinary doctor, he did not feed the eggs to the dog because the dog was overweight already. So the doctor and his friends, what you call them, they would, and his partners in the hospital, they would only eat the eggs in the breakfast. And then further, Mrs. Pumphrey also sent bottles of wine to improve Tricky's blood condition, and she would send bottles of wine to improve his blood conditions. Blood condition means here in the cold regions, the people who live in cold regions, their blood becomes cold easily. So to get it heated and to keep the temperature, blood temperature proper, they drink a lot of wine. So she used to send wine also, but those again were consumed by Mr. Harriet and his partners. So the wine was also consumed by the doctor and his partners. He felt sorry for eating the food that was sent by Mrs. Pumphrey for Tricky. So he was helpless. The doctor was helpless. He could not refuse to Mrs. Pumphrey. So he could not stop Mrs. Pumphrey to send the food for her dog because she was quite worried about her pet dog. And so the doctor and his partners would only eat it, but they felt bad for it. Soon as the little dog started showing signs of improvement, the vet decided to call the wealthy lady. So when the dog started showing improvement, the veterinary doctor called the lady, and she was very worried about her pet's condition. When she arrived in the hospital to fetch her dog, Tricky was very happy and jumped on her. So the dog was very happy to see his owner, his mistress. Mrs. Pumphrey was filled with gratitude. Gratitude means a lot of thanks, So thanks and appreciation towards Mr. Harriet for curing her dog because he had cured her dog, and felt she couldn't thank him enough for the wonder he had done to her pet, and she couldn't thank enough for the wonder he had done to her pet. She felt this was indeed a triumph of surgery. Surgery means here the hospital. It was a victory. It was a success. It was a great success of the clinic, the veterinary doctor's clinic. So here, like what happens in fact, that rich people, they do not employ their brain much. It was a very simple thing, to treat the dog. So just to give him freedom for movement and to become active and to feed him less, that was only the treatment, real treatment. But Mrs. Pumphrey, she thought that it was a great treatment, and she thanked the doctor a lot. Okay. So here line by line explanation. I was really worried about Ricky this time. I had pulled up my car. Pulled up means here to stop. So I stopped my car when I saw him in the street with his mistress, and I was shocked at his appearance. So who's the narrator? The writer himself, James Herriot, is the narrator. So he says that he was very worried to see the condition of the dog in the street, when he saw the dog in the street along with his mistress, and I was shocked. He had become hugely fat. The dog was very fat. It looked very fat, like a blotted sausage. Blotted sausage means here excessive size amount, and sausage is form of a cylindrical length of minced pork or other meat encased in a skin, typically sold raw on grill or fried before eating. That is an item of food in the form of a cylindrical length of minced pork or other meat encased in a skin, typically sold raw to be grilled or fried before eating. So the dog looked like a blotted sausage. Sausage is a big piece of meat from a big animal's body, and blotted means it was huge. So it was just like a balloon. And then mistress is a woman in position of authority or control. Owner. Mistress is here the owner of the dog, with a leg at each corner, and his legs were even not seen because his body had become huge, so heavy and huge. So the legs were looking like 4 pieces of sticks on 4 sides, 4 corners. His eyes bloodshot and rheumy. Rheumy means watery. Bloodshot means red. So the dog's eyes were red and watery. Stared straight ahead, and his tongue lolled. Lolled means here to come out. So his tongue had come out from his jaws. Mrs. Pumphrey hastened. Hastened means to hurry, to explain. So when the doctor saw the condition of the dog, so Mrs. Pumphrey, she hastened. Hastened means she hurriedly reacted. She replied hurriedly. He was so listless. Listless means here without any energy. Okay. So he was so listless, here lacking energy or enthusiasm. The dog was so much of he was lacking a lot. He was lacking energy. So Mr. Herriot, he seemed to have no energy. I thought he must be suffering from malnutrition. So malnutrition means lack of nutrition or lack of food. So here lack of proper nutritious food, like if you eat only carbohydrates and you do not eat take intake of fat or vitamins, so minerals, etc., then your body becomes it becomes without nutrition. So it lacks nutrition. So in the same way, she thought that the dog was suffering from malnutrition. Then she fed him, to build him up, some malt and cod liver oil. So malt is here kind of carbohydrates it is, and cod liver, and cod liver means here fish. Cod is a fish, and from the fish's liver some oil is prepared, and this oil is very healthy to build your body. So she fed him with malt and cod liver oil and a bowl of Horlicks. So Horlicks, we know it is Horlicks is given to small kids so that they grow fast. So at night to make him sleep, nothing much really, and she said that she fed only with malt, Horlicks and cod liver oil to make him sleep properly at night. Horlicks was given. So in this way she thought that it was very little, but it was beyond the capacity of the dog to digest. The dog could not digest that much, because in addition to that she was making him eat cakes and pastries and biscuits. And did you cut down on the sweet things as I told you? So she is a what you call that, customer, and like she's a client. Mrs. Pumphrey is a regular client of Dr. Harriet. So like in the last visit, Dr. Harriet had advised her to cut short the intake of food, I mean for Tricky. So then what happened that he asked, did you cut down on the sweet things as I suggested? So I told you, oh, I did for a bit, but he seemed to be so weak, I had to relent. Relent means here to give up. I had to give up because my dog seemed to be very weak. He does love milk cakes and chocolates, and the dog loves milk cakes and chocolates. So I can't bear to refuse him. So she could not bear to refuse him. She fed him with chocolates, milk, cake. I looked down again at the little dog. That was the trouble. And giving him, feeding the dog with milk cake and the pastries or maybe chocolates, etc., was the real reason of the dog getting sick. Tricky's only fault was greed. And Tricky, he could not speak, and he was greedy also. So he had never been known to refuse food. He never refused food. He used to eat whatever was offered to him. He would tackle a meal at any hour of the day or night. Tackle means here to eat here. So here he would finish the food given to him at any hour of the day or night. Any time it would be eating readily. So, and I wondered about all the things Mrs. Pumphrey hadn't mentioned. And then the doctor wondered that Mrs. Pumphrey had not mentioned many other things. Are you giving him plenty of exercise? So the doctor asked. So was she giving him any exercise? Relent means here to become less severe or intense. Like when children demand something, parents become relent. Relent means they become less severe and they accept the demands of the kids. So Mrs. Pumphrey also was relent, and she used to feed the dog with his favorite food stuff.
Add-on solutions. Add-on desired.